The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right, well, welcome everyone. We do know it's about a minute till the hour, but we are just going to get started a little bit early just to do some introductory information. My name is Jess Lanciano. I work as an area director at Shepherd University, and I am currently serving in the role as the MAPC chair. So if you have any questions about MAPC, I am your gal. And I'll let Gina introduce herself as well.
Hi everyone, my name is Gina Kiefer. I am a resident director at Alvernia University. I serve as the PPD, which is Personal and Professional Development Committee co-chair. And as part of the PPD committee, we support MAPC. So we are here for that, and we provide other professional and personal development opportunities for MACUHO members throughout the year.
Mm-hmm. So as Gina said, MAPC and PPD work really closely together around this time of year because MAPC is a part of professional development for a lot of people. So we are super excited to provide this opportunity for you today. So just a quick note for people, two of them. On your GoToWebinar control panel, there is a little chat button. If you have questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to type in the chat there your question, and we will make sure that we get to it by the end of the presentation. As well as the three of us, myself, Gina, and Debbie, who is our main presenter for the day, are very new at using GoToWebinar, so please forgive us if something strange happens. We will work through it. It is possible that if we get kicked off of the webinar, what we will do is immediately start sending out emails to all of you that have registered so that we can reschedule for early next week. So just kind of keep that on your radar. Again, we greatly apologize if that happens. And we promise that that we will make sure that this opportunity is still provided to you very soon. So I think at this point, unless Gina has anything else to say, we are going to let Debbie take over and start the presentation.
All right, awesome. I hope that everyone can hear me. If you can, raise your hand, and you can do that with the control panel feature just to make sure that it looks like hands are raised. Oh, good. People can hear. Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us this afternoon. Again, just hang with the tech. I've done this before, just once before, where the technology has been a little wonky. So we appreciate everyone's grace as we learn to navigate the GoToWebinar feature for our association a little bit more thoroughly. All right. Well, today we're going to talk a little bit about resume and cover letter writing as we prepare for MAPC, but we also fully acknowledge that folks who might be attending MAPC are also looking at TPE or Oshkosh. And so these tips and tricks hopefully are applicable to you in your job search, and also are applicable to you regardless if you are a undergrad student getting ready to enter a graduate experience, or if you're a master's level professional getting ready to go into your first post-master's experience. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. First and foremost, again, thanks so much. I appreciate Jess and Gina reaching out to me for my opinion on this. I also want to let you know, while I have a few objectives, first and foremost, offering you my perspectives and tips of the trade, as well as some things that I believe are going to help you build a strong resume and a strong cover letter. Another objective that I have for you is to be absolutely critical about what I tell you. You will hear me say that your resume is you on paper. When I say that, what I mean is I'm going to offer you things that have worked for me, advice that I have received over the years from folks in all levels of the profession as well as outside of student affairs. I take some and I leave some. At the end of the day, my resume is my resume, and I want it to reflect what I want it to reflect. So everything I'm going to tell you today is absolute gold and truth, and you should listen to it. And everything I'm going to tell you today is absolute junk. You need to figure somewhere out in the middle of what applies to you. If you truly do not like a suggestion that I offer in terms of a resume, you feel very strongly about the layout, you feel very strongly about what you want to put in your resume, at the end of the day, that is yours to do and to choose. And so an objective that I do have is to encourage you to ask for advice from a lot of people, but use your own filter in terms of what you think needs to be there. Because if you ask 10 people could give you 10 different pieces of advice. At the end of the day, you need to be able to decipher what you want for yourself within your resume. So let's go ahead and jump in. Oftentimes, folks are saying, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? In the case of a resume and a cover letter and the application process and you're getting all of your materials together, it can be very overwhelming. It can be very daunting to think of getting everything in order in the right way so that you're an excellent and standout candidate. And folks typically struggle with what to tackle first. My argument for you and my suggestion is, while the cover letter is typically read prior to the resume being screened, you should start with your resume. And the reason that I feel you should start with your resume is that's going to be your points of foundation upon which you build your cover letter. So even though that cover letter is typically the first thing that gets scanned and then they really go down deep into your resume and hold on to that resume, build your resume first. Make that be your foundation. Put your expertise out there. Start with your resume, and then your cover letter actually becomes very, very easy because you are highlighting your resume from that point. So in terms of what comes first, the chicken or the egg, don't know which one totally came first, but in the cases of resumes and cover letter, build a strong resume first and then create your cover letter. And we're going to talk about both today, but as such, I am going to start with resumes first in terms of what we're going to explain today. So I have some general truths that I believe to be true that I want to share with you if you have not already heard them. The first truth is our job market looks like this demographic I showed you. Pretend that's a pyramid. I know it probably looks like a hat or it might look like Old Faithful, but pretend that is a pyramid. And you will notice that the base is incredibly wide, and then you will notice that the pyramid itself is incredibly steep. You are that orange line on that pyramid if you are a graduate or entry-level professional. There's a lot of us. There's a lot of you competing for jobs. But as you progress in this field, it becomes much more difficult to progress upward. But it's important that you know that. Secondly, employers take roughly 5 to 10 seconds to review your resume, which is why it's so critically important that your resume is strong and definitely has points and keys that stand out. As I said before, your resume is you on paper. It needs to reflect you. Please, 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 if nothing else, do not use templates that pre-exist. Do not go on Microsoft Word and look up resume templates and fill in the blanks. You really do need to be crafting your resume from scratch each time for yourself. Can everybody still hear me at this point? If you could please raise your hands for me, because I'm just watching our ticker go down. Fantastic. So they aren't kicking us out right now. That's beautiful. All right, well, they're going to keep on trucking. Thank you, everybody. So templates, they're the devil. My opinion about templates, I can tell when I get a candidate that has used a template because of the layout, because of the wasted space, because of how the formatting and the fonts. Don't use templates. You're original, beautiful, fantastic professionals. Your resume should be original, beautiful, and fantastic as well. Your cover letter and your resume are going to get you the interview. The interview will get you the job. The reason that that is important is you need to understand that your resume and cover letter will only get you so far. Are they important? Absolutely. Do you need to put time and energy into them? For sure. But as part of your preparation for MAPC, for these placement conferences, for any interview that you have at any time, if you are pouring all of your time and energy simply into your resume and cover letter, hoping that those will speak for you, and neglecting interview practice with peers, with mentors, with supervisors, you are doing yourself a massive disservice, and that will show when you arrive on site. Your cover letter and your resume will get you that initial call. How you perform on your phone interview or your Skype interview, how you perform on your on-campus is what will ultimately get you the job. A resume and a cover letter are a tool and a portion of your job searching and your interview total experience. I say that again. Do not put all your eggs in one basket with your resume and your cover letter. Please make sure you're talking to peers. I know Jess. I know Gina, myself. There are folks that I see on this call who are attendees. They are ready, willing, and able to help and assist you and walk you through and practice with you. So these are truths that you need to understand. We are all here to help you out. We're on the same team. You need to make sure your resume pops because you really are going to get about 5 to 10 seconds tops to review or for an employer to take a look at your things. When you have 50, 100, 150, 200, 300 applicants for one job, which is very common for my institution, your resume really needs to stand out and get you that in. And you really need to make sure that you are confident with what you're putting forward. Again, critiquing and advice from other folks is really going to help you understand what you want to put in your resume. All right, so some resume basics. These are just some quick samples of resumes. I'm not going to go very far in depth in terms of formatting and layout because there really are some approaches you can take. But here is my suggestion for you in general. There are different styles and different formats that are out there, as you can see on as example just on this screen alone. But regardless of how dynamic you are and colorful you are and outgoing you are, if anyone personally knows me out there on this webinar, you know that I love color and noise and talking with my hands and being really animated. My resume will not show you that because my resume is very conservative. And that is my suggestion for you. This is not Legally Blonde. Do not give me pink scented gel ink with a beautiful headshot of you resume. I don't need that. I don't want that. And frankly, it's illegal for me to have a headshot picture of you to have identifying features. Your resume really does need to be incredibly professional, incredibly conservative, very straightforward, black ink, white paper. If you really want to get jazzy, you put it on ecru or cream. I don't want to see colored fonts. I don't want to see cursive fonts. I don't want to see clip art on your resume. It really is very important that you are being as conservative with your layout as possible. The best thing that I've ever found in terms of finding just general resume information, truly, asking your peers if it's okay if you can see their resume. Ask your boss. Ask people you admire. Ask people to show you what they have used. The best thing you can do is if you have the opportunity at your own home institution to be on a search committee in any way, shape, or form, do that. You will see resume samples that will run the gamut, and you'll see what you like. You'll see the layouts. You'll see the formats. But don't marry yourself to one style particularly, but whatever you do, make sure the style you approach is conservative. On this screen alone, you'll see names are typically bold at the top, and on the next screen, we'll talk about the actual content and the layout. You'll see that we've got experiences, objectives, education. There's a general must-have for resumes, and for many of you, this is very redundant. You think that you know this, but I promise you, there are some of you out there who think your resumes look really great, and they don't. So please ask folks to give you their feedback. All right, how many pages should be in a resume? My personal preference, and unless you are incredibly involved as an undergrad student getting ready to jump into a graduate experience, you're looking at a one-page resume. The difference would be if you are a highly involved undergraduate student, you're an RA, you're on student government, you're in a Greek letter organization, perhaps you're an athlete, you are civically engaged. If you have a lot of relevant and applicable experiences in your undergrad career, you perhaps might have a two-page resume. That is the rarity. That is not the standard. I am typically expecting when I see folks applying for graduate hall director positions, for graduate assistantships, for grad school itself, I'm looking at one-page resumes across the board. But again, if you have the content, fill it. This is also something that's really important, and you will hear me say this. If you're going to go on a second page, or third, fourth, fifth, whatever that looks like as you move through your career, if you're going to touch a page, you're going to fill a page. Do not have a resume that is 1.5 pages long. Don't do it. Don't put your references in that space and say, it's 2. No. If you are putting a resume out there, make sure that you're filling the page. For a graduate student, if you are attaining your master's degree this year and you're getting ready for that first entry-level experience, I'm expecting a 2-page resume from you. I want to see your field work. I want to see your practicums. I want to see any internships or externships that you were a part of. If you had a graduate assistantship, talk to me about those. Show me how your professional experiences have come into play. Do not discount. This is for RAs out there. This is for hall directors out there at the grad level. Do not shortchange yourself thinking because you're an undergrad or a graduate student that the work that you're doing is not professional. You might be a paraprofessional in title, but in practice, if you're responding to crisis, if you are managing a budget, I don't care how small, if it's $20, if it's $2,000, I don't care. I want to see that on your resume. Don't think because your title is resident assistant, graduate hall director, graduate area coordinator, complex director, whatever that is, do not think that that is not worth highlighting those professional skills, because especially at the entry level, that's what you're going to be doing again at the professional level, and we want to make sure that our candidates are highlighting those skills and those experiences. And if you have any questions whatsoever, folks, I gave you my contact information at the beginning, and I'm going to give it to you again at the end. Ask me, contact me. I would love to look at your resumes. I would love to offer you my 2 cents. Again, I'll tell you all my thoughts and feels about what your cover letter and resume look like if you want to take it and you want to hear it. But make sure you're putting your information out there. Make sure you're putting your content out there. For those of you who have worked additional jobs outside of higher education, I want to see those too. I have some RAs who were hesitant to put work at Chick-fil-A or work in our campus center or work in our athletic center or work at the mall at Pearson Pagoda or Annie Ann's Pretzels or whatever. They didn't want to put those on their resume because they were going for higher ed jobs, and they didn't want to be seen as, oh, well, you know, I did other things outside of being a res lifer or a housing ops person. Awesome. That's customer service. That's budget management. That's time management, depending on your roles. That could be management of a store or of a kiosk. You have to balance a lot of things. Difficult people. Let me explain how angry people get at Chick-fil-A when they get the waffle fries wrong. So any experience that you have is valid, and put it out there. That really is super, super important. All right, so rounding it back. 1 page, that's my standard I'm expecting for an undergrad student. 2 pages if you're exceptional or incredibly involved. Grad students, I'm expecting 2. I want to see all the coursework you've done. I want to see all the things that you've done in field and practicum. I want to see how you are walking in ready to hit the ground running. Because again, there's a lot of people looking for jobs and not as many spots for them. I'm going to just stop really quick because it looks like we have 2 questions. All right, so I'm going to answer those as we go because it's my webinar and that's how I like to do things. So what font do I prefer that you use on a resume? Beautiful question. And we're going to talk about that just a little bit in the next slide, but in general, I know that Times New Roman is super boring. Your resume's font is going to be super boring. It needs to be clear and clean. Arial is a good one. I think it's Calibra or Calibri. I'm not cool enough to obviously remember that. That's a good one, and Times New Roman is a good one. Your font should not be any larger than 12. Frankly, my font is 9.5 to 10, depending on how I play with my margins. And again, we'll talk a little bit about content and layout. But you really do want the most straightforward, easiest to read, easiest on the eye font that you can find for your resume. Can I talk about what resumes look like for professionals who have more than 2 years experience and how far back they should go with data for their resumes? So Kevin, I hope that I addressed a little bit in terms of folks at definitely the graduate level, but of course for folks that have professional experiences outside of the grad level, your resume might be 3 or 4 pages long. Mine is a 4-page resume, and it took me a long, long time to be okay with that because I was so caught up in the can't be more than 2, can't be more than 2, can't be more than 2. And I talked to enough AVPs and deans and directors and assistant deans who said, oh, throw that out the window, Debbie, put your content in. So Kevin, my answer to you about the length and the look of your resume is that you should have your content in there. If you are, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years out from grad school, I think it can go back as far as grad school in terms of your experiences. You don't have to have anything for undergrad once you pass the master's level in terms of putting information out there. But definitely they want to see where you started. The assumption is if you have a master's degree, you did undergrad, obviously successfully. So you don't need to go through and highlight all the things and involvement that you had. But for folks that are out beyond their master's level and are in the active professional level, master's level career field, we want to see progression. We want to see growth. If your budget increased, put that in there. If you got additional supervision, put that in there. If you've changed institutions, in addition to just physically changing your header for institutional information, I think it's important too, if your institutions have changed in terms of demographic, if you've gone to an urban institution or a suburban institution or a public or a private or a large or a small, that is important to note, whether that is in your cover letter or whether you denote that in your resume. And specifically, Kevin, if you have questions about what that looks like, send me an email and I'll show you my personal resume. I have a little statement about the 3 different institutions I've worked for because I've been in an urban, a rural, and a suburban campus, and those are very, very different demographics in terms of location and the students that they serve. And so I want to make sure that folks that are reading my resume know what that looks like. So Kevin, I'm happy to share that with you regarding how you can kind of articulate that a little bit more clearly. That's a little bit more advanced resume, folks. So I apologize if I am throwing a lot of knowledge at you without the ability to show you in person. That's the downside of the webinar feature. But if anyone wants to see my resume, I'm happy to send it to you. So just shoot me a quick email. I'm happy to share my resume with you. Okay, we are going to move on because I know that Cornelius wants to know all about fonts. So let's talk all about fonts. All right, so Cornelius, my friend, you wanted to know about what kind of font should you use for a resume. I've said it once, I will say it again. Your resume needs to be simple, clean, and conservative in terms of layout. Don't get funky with your colors. Don't get funky with your fonts. I know it shows your personality. This is not the time to do that. It needs to be clear. It needs to be smart. It needs to be clean. You want a resume to be simple and to follow designated zones. And you'll see, for education, work experience, all of those things. You want to make sure that when people are quickly looking at your resume, they can find what they need to find to know if you go in the move on pile or the throwaway pile. First and foremost, your name needs to be on it, in your header. And you will see on the example that I'm showing you that the font for John Doe's name is a little bit larger, bolder, and if you're really looking closely, it is actually a different font than the rest of the resume. In my personal resume's case, that's exactly what mine is too. My font on my name is, I think, Garmond, and the rest of mine is Arial or Times New Roman. The only time it is okay for you to change and play with your font is with your name. I'll say it again. The only time it is okay to get funky with your resume and show your personality is with your name. You can please do bold it. Please do make it larger because that really is very important. If you go by a middle name and that is really truly what you prefer, put that on your resume. My name is Deborah Lee Scheibler. I don't go by Deborah Lee Scheibler. No one here on this webinar has ever called me Deborah Lee Scheibler. I go by Debbie. And I have changed my resume to say Debbie Scheibler because that's really who I am, and I'm much more comfortable right off the bat in an interview, someone calling me by the name that I go by. So if you have a name that you prefer and truly do go by that, put that on your resume. If you go by your middle name, if you go by a shortened version of your name, it is okay to put that on there. Really, all the formality is going to come down. If you get the job, go to HR, write down your government-issued name. But for your resume, it really needs to reflect you. All right, next thing within your header, which you should consider your header as your stationery. And the reason I say that is, it is my opinion that your header should also be the same formatting you use for your cover letter. So again, starting with your resume, it builds off into your cover letter. Do not use your school email address. My friends, especially for those of you who are getting ready to graduate, you need to use a personal email. Some employers don't want to contact you at your school email address because they just don't. Some of you might not want to put your school email address or your work email address because that feels weird to apply for a job, utilizing where you're currently at's job. So find yourself a Yahoo, find yourself a Gmail, make a professional email. I truly have gotten, like hotbarbie1@gmail.com. No, I'm not going to hire Hot Barbie. I'm just not. So the best way to make an email for yourself that's professional, if you don't already have it, is your first name and your last name, and kind of going in that way. And fun fact, Hotmail, if you still have a Hotmail, it's very antiquated. It is an older version, used to be cool. Gmail offers free email. I would suggest a Google account in that way if you don't already have one. it shows that you're a little bit more current with the times, so that really is actually something to think about. But find a professional email and use your professional email. All right, next thing that's really important for you to know and see, you will see that I have an X put through the objective. I really detest an objective in a resume. I find it to be redundant. I find it to be stating the obvious. What is your objective? I would like to get a fantastic job at an innovative company that's going to progress. We know you want a job with us because we're great. The objective is wasting your space, and it is only stating the obvious. What do you want? A job. Are you applying for a job? You are applying for a job. Nix the objective. Get rid of it. We know you want a job. We know that you're great. We know that it wants to be challenging and offer progression. Get rid of the objective. It is wasting space on your resume, and it is only stating the obvious. Get rid of it. It also implies that you use a template. Don't. Basic layout. If you are not already familiar with how that looks, your education should be on the top. We want to know that you've graduated. If you have not graduated, when it comes to your date, you're going to write anticipated May 2017. If you're going for a master's degree, if you're going for a PhD, wherever you're at, if you have not already attained a degree, do not put present, do not put current. Put your anticipated month and day, or and year. That's very, very important. So all of your dates for your education, for your work experience, everything needs to be date-wise, needs to be far right justified. And here's why I say that. As someone who reviews a lot of resumes when people apply to jobs for my institution, I instantly go to their name. My eye will then go down to education, and it will then shoot over and look at dates. I want to see how long someone's been working in a location. I want to see how long it's been either since they graduated, until they graduate. Those are the three things I'm looking for right away. If I see a lot of gaps in dates in terms of job performance, or not job performance, but job security, if someone has a lot of gaps in terms of their employment history, I might put them in the I'll think about you later pile. So your dates really do need to be easy to access. Headers are very important as well, folks. Let's see. Actually, I'm going to stop for a second because I see a few questions coming in. Is it detrimental if you do not use resume paper? No. 9 times out of 10, you're going to be emailing your resume and your cover letter anyway, and you're going to be doing that in a PDF, not a Word file, and we'll remind you of that. The only time that resume paper is really just going to be knocking it out of the park, in my opinion, is if they do require that you send snail mail, old-fashioned USPS, which most folks are not. But if you do have to send actual documents in, get the resume paper. Also, if you're going to bring updated versions of your resume to an interview, or if you're attending, a placement conference and you really want to stand apart, spend the money on the resume paper. Otherwise, no, you won't need to use that. And then another question that's come in about content and layout for resumes. Full addresses on resumes have recently been an issue with stalking. Ooh, that's true. Interviewers will show up to the house. What? Wow. Wow, my friend, that would be such an unfortunate situation. What is something that you could put instead of a full home address? So this is the first time I'm hearing of people physically showing up at your house. If you are uncomfortable putting your full address, you could always put, I would say, your city, your state, and your zip instead of the actual street name. At the end of the day, folks, you're also going to be filling out information very likely in an online format because that is the name of the game when you're applying to jobs now. It's not just sending a resume in. They might have you go online and put things in through their own database. You're eventually going to have to let them know what your information is. But if you have any concern about someone knowing your exact street address or your exact apartment number, it's kind of your call to make. I would say exclude your actual street information, put your city, your state, and your zip. I'm going to maintain my information on my resume. That's just my 2 cents on that. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on. We're talking about your dates being justified. So zones, sections. You are going to absolutely have a section for education. You are absolutely going to have a section for work experience. But beyond that, some folks really struggle in terms of what they should be putting on their resume in terms of content. If you have a lot of community or campus involvement, make that a section and explain what that is. If you have a lot of civic involvement outside of your campus, put that down. If you have any awards or special skills or special trainings, that might warrant a special zone or a header on your resume. It really is going to come down to the content that you want to put out there. But you should really make sure that your headers are clear so that we know we're moving into a new section or a new zone. The example there on the screen, education. I obviously know we're going to talk about your degree. Your work experience, all bolded, all capitalized. The font is just slightly different in the way it's laid out. You're going to find one that's going to work the best for you, but it really is important that your sections or your zone titles are very clearly marked so that I, as the individual reviewing your resume, can tell when we're transitioning to a new section. Do you need to list all your work history? Yeah, put it on back as far as you can. Do you want your campus involvement? Absolutely. Am I going to lean towards someone who is actively involved in their campus versus someone who's not? You better believe it. So if you have any kind of special accommodations, involvement, if you've served on search committees, if people trust you to weigh on those things, put that down there. A lot of times folks will say, oh man, I have to do a new cover letter every time, but at least I don't have to do a new resume. I'm going to argue that you probably can get away with having a standard resume, but as you progress, as you're applying to jobs and as they're looking for more specific sets of skills, you really need to be recrafting a new resume for every job you apply for. Sometimes it literally is just as simple as rearranging bullet points so that your most relevant is on top versus the bottom. Sometimes it means starting over and really revamping it. But you need to also come to terms, while you need to do a fresh cover letter every time, you do need to adjust your resume to fit the job you are applying for. I know it's more work, totally, totally worth it. All right, the glamorous life of cover letters. We're going to transition now into what that looks like as well. Most folks hate writing cover letters. How long should it be? What do I have to put in there? Why do I need to write a cover letter? It's all on my resume anyway. Again, your cover letter is going to pique their interest and elaborate, really, truly build off of what is in your resume. A resume is a series of dates, a series of bullet points, and really doesn't dive into the nitty-gritty of what you've done or the touchy-feely of what you've done or the greater impact of what you have done. Your cover letter is the chance to do so. Your cover letter is the why you're applying for the job and what it is about that job or that institution that has piqued your interest and drawn you in. Folks, when you are writing your cover letter, you need to woo them. Don't just rattle off, I'm great and I did this and I have experience here and I'm awesome, 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 awesome. That might be absolutely true that you are awesome. But if I'm reading your cover letter and you don't mention my institution other than I am so excited to apply for the job of Debbie's helper at Rutgers Camden, if that's the only time I see Rutgers Camden and the only time that you're talking about my institution, that, you know, that doesn't help me. I want to know, were you drawn to us because of our mission, our philosophy, our location, the students that we serve, something that I put in my job posting. You know, I've seen job postings that have actually said, I want people who have competencies in ACU Hawaii. I want people who are involved in regional or national associations. My friends, if you are on this call, that is because you got the information about MACUHO and MAPC and you know about our region. Put that in your cover letter. Show me your passion and show me what has drawn you to that position beyond just rattling off facts about yourself. Reference your resume, absolutely. Tie them together for sure. But your cover letter is not just a bragging list of your accomplishments or a regurgitation of your resume. It really, truly needs to tie back to the campus, to the philosophy, to the job that you are applying for. I am absolutely excited when I see a candidate tell me specifics about my job description that I put out there and my job posting that I took time and care to write and put out on Higher Ed Jobs, for them to actually reference and show me it wasn't just I saw a title, I saw a number for what you're going to pay me in a location. Cool. You are telling me that you are emotionally invested and have a strong desire to be a part of my campus. Do not shortchange yourself on your cover letter. Alrighty. All right. Diamond, I'm going to get back to you in a little bit. We're going to keep on trucking, but right now we've got more of the glamorous life of cover letters. All right, I think this dog is So beautiful. So this is why it's here, right? Beauty's in the eye of the beholder, right? So kind of the same thing with the cover letter. I know folks hate writing them, like I said. Even though you're totally burnt out on applying jobs, friends, I'm sorry, but this is the truth, and you need to get used to it. You need to write a new cover letter every time. And it's more critical with your cover letter, even more so than your resume. And here is why. Again, you are highlighting your resume, but you are singing and wooing and playing to the person who's looking at your stuff at the institution you want to work at. Show them you've done your research. The time to start researching the institution is not when you get the call for the on-campus interview, not when you get the call for the phone interview or the Skype interview. It is when you see the job posting. Start doing your research. I know it's probably a lot because you're applying to 10, 15, 20 locations. And gosh, that is a lot of work to do. But my friends, I am speaking truth to you right now. You will do a greater favor for yourself if you are finding out information about that institution and you are putting that in your cover letter. I'm going to tell you a fun story about what I did when I was in grad school that I hope you never do. So once upon a time, there was this really excited graduate student graduating with her master's degree from Shippensburg University, go Ship. She was doing a lot of applications, and she, gosh darn, was so burnt out and so tired and thought, I'm just going to replace the name of the school in all of my cover letters. It will save me time and energy. And then she sent out those cover letters. And some of the cover letters she sent to schools had the names of other schools in them. Don't do what I did. Make sure that you're checking your entire cover letter so that you change Rutgers University to Shippensburg University to West Virginia University. Change it correctly. It's a guarantee that you will not get a job interview if you apply to Penn State University, but you have written down Villanova University as the school you're applying to. It's 100% guaranteed. There's no amount of backtracking, apologizing, or fixing that's going to happen there. So it's hilarious, kind of like this dog winning first place. But it's a thing. And I know you're probably thinking, well, I would never do that, Debbie. But you just might, because you might be tired. So make sure that you're checking things. In terms of length of cover letter, I have seen cover letters that are 2 pages long. I have written cover letters that are 2 pages long. That is way too long. Way too long. They're not going to read it all. Your cover letter really, and I'll backtrack. These are just some simple examples, but like they're a page. They're 3, 4, maybe 5 strong paragraphs at most. You are not writing a novel in front of your resume. They're going to give you 10, 15 seconds of the whole thing to look at it. You want to make sure that you're stating your cases. Let them know that you're excited to apply. That should be your opening statement. Explain to them the strengths that you bring to the position. Tell them how your strengths marry and couple so well with the strengths that they are looking for in a candidate and the energy and philosophy of the department you're applying for and the projects that are going on. Take a look at their Cleary stats. Take a look at their bond rating and their stock rating. Find out the fiscal condition of your institution that you're applying for. Are they doing well with their endowment? Do they have an active alumni base? What is the ratio of faculty to students? What is their philosophy on undergraduate or graduate level or professional level folks teaching courses or being part-time lecturers? These are all things that are very important and should draw you to a campus. You can put those in your cover letter as to why you feel you're the best person for them. Really, really is important. Again, make sure that your header, your stationery, again, if you will, matches your resume. It just has a really nice flow to it. So if you can, go in that direction. All right, let me double check our questions here. Well, thanks, Simone. That was kind of you. I'm glad you're here too. All right. Folks, we actually are in the home stretch here. I just want to make sure we're giving you really great information that's applicable to you. Resume and cover letter, cardinal sins. Friends, I've said these a few times as we're going through, but I'm just going to reiterate it because it really is very important, and it's without fail. I have sat on search committees for director level positions making $100,000 plus here at my institution, and I've still seen these things show up. First and foremost, send all of your materials in a PDF. It's clean, they can't mess with it, and your formatting is ensured. Don't send a Word document. It will also show any errors in a Word document. Don't do it. PDF, it's the way to go. It seems like a no-brainer, but you'd be surprised. When you are physically saving your document, especially because I had mentioned in a lot of cases, you are going to be applying to positions via an online application system, whether it's a third party or whether it's through the campus's HR site, but you're going to have to upload your cover letter, your references, your resumes in a lot of cases, or you're going to be attaching those documents to an email that you are sending off. Make sure that the title of your file itself is appropriately titled, and it's clearly titled. In the crazy, crazy event that your files are separated from your email, make sure your last name is in the file title. You know, Scheibler resume, Scheibler cover letter, the name of the school. These are really great tips just to show that everything's very, very thorough. And frankly, it's easy for you to find those files in your own personal computer later. But folks will see that in terms of how you're uploading your information. Utilize the entire page. That is for a resume. And we, do I want to go back? How can I go back? Let's see. For a resume, let's launch that. Well, it's not going to work. All right. For a resume, white space is dead space on a resume. That to me says, if I see a lot of white space on a resume, that tells me that you do not have the content to fill it up. Lay out your bullets and your information in such a way that you have a full page, you have full content. I'm not saying load it up that I can't read anything, because you are going to have to play with your font sizing, and you will have options out there in terms of the style you use and the font that you want to run with and how big you're going to make it. Those are personal preferences that you can play with at the end. But if you have substantial areas of blank space, to me that reads as not enough content, not enough experience to fill that. So be very, very mindful of what your resume physically will look like on that paper. In some cases, adjusting your margins in a slight way, instead of a full inch margin, perhaps the 0.8 or a 0.6 or a 0.5 margin, that might allow you to get all of your content on one page versus just barely trickling over to that second. Playing around with how you change your wording and the language that you utilize, the length of your physical line. I know it sounds like nitpicky stuff or neat little tricks, but truly, friends, that helps. White space is dead space, and dead space tells me that you don't have enough to fill it. I said it before, I'll say it again. Do not use prefabricated, pre-existing templates for your resume. Every Word or Notepad that's out there, they're going to have it. But don't use it. It's cookie cutter. There's a lot of white space on those. The fonts, it looks like it's out of the box. I want to see that you put time and energy in your resume. You should spend a few hours on really making a strong, solid resume. So set the time aside and truly allow yourself to work on your resume. You shouldn't be throwing your resume together. That just really is very important. No funky ink, no funky colors. Do not color code it. I just did a resume workshop here on my campus, and some of the examples I got were beautiful to look at. And trust me, friends, I love colors and I love unicorns and sparkly things, but I don't want to see it on your resume. Having an entire theme of all the shades of red because we're Rutgers is not cute to me when I see your resume come across my desk. Having icons to explain what you're trying to do doesn't look cute. Your spirit animal, I don't want to see it on your resume. The only real true exception to this is if you are going to graphic design and you are doing a really graphically appealing resume, which I don't think most folks on this webinar are. You stick with conservative, black ink, white paper, maybe eggshell cream paper. That's about it, my friends. It really does need to be clear and easy to read. And I know we've got folks on this call who oversee departments, and I sure know that they will appreciate, for their own eyes' sake, a nice, clean, laid out resume. All right, a few more questions have come in. I'm going to stop really quickly, address those, and then I'm going to open it up to the entire floor because we are at that point. So the best way that you can send your questions, you can do it on either the chat feature, which everyone can see, or you can do it on the question feature, which I can see. Your preference completely. But I want to hear your questions. I want to know what is burning for you. Again, I can't answer every single thing without physically seeing your resumes to offer very specific feedback. I am more than happy to look at your resume, to have a conversation with you, to offer my suggestions, scan it back to you. I will do whatever I can to make you love your resume and to help you love your cover letter. So if there's anything at all that I can do at any point in the coming weeks or in the coming years, do not hesitate to contact me. I'm happy to do so. All right, so some questions that have been coming in. How many bullets are the norm for each work experience listed? You know, that really is going to kind of come down to what you're doing. In my current role as Assistant Director of Housing and Residence Life at Rutgers University Camden, I have a lot of bullets. I think I have 8 bullets, 8 or 9 actually bullets under my my Assistant Director role. And in my area coordinator role prior to, I think I have like 4 or 5. Simply because I do more things in my Assistant Director role. I oversee our residential programming in its entirety. I oversee our conduct process in its entirety. I am a member of our Title IX team. I am involved on our campus for a lot of greater programmatic and philanthropic events. Because I do so many things and because my role is very multifaceted, I include that all under the header of what I do as an Assistant Director. It's simply because I do more. If something is critical to your job that you are performing, do not exclude it because you think you're getting too long in your bullet points. If the content is rich, it has a place. If you're putting bullets in simply because you're putting bullets in, that's probably not the way to roll. If your primary job has 2, 3 bullets, I gotta believe there's more that you're doing in that role. So for me, you know, Kevin, to answer your question a little bit more specifically, I would probably want to see your resume and talk with you about what you're doing in that role, and this goes for anybody. But I would want to really take a really hard look at what it is you're doing in a functional, tangible, practical sense in your job. That will help me to understand how many bullets you should have. There is no magic number, quote unquote, really bad joke. There is no magic bullet number for a resume. Oh, and Gina and Jess, at this point too, if you want to unmute yourselves and chime in with any questions, feel free at this point as well. Another question that's come in: if you are emailing a resume and cover letter to an employer, what should you write in the body of the email? That is always a really tricky one. I try to keep it pretty short and sweet. Good afternoon, hello, hi, sir, ma'am. I typically just go with selection committee, frankly, because I don't know how folks identify, so I try to be as inclusive as possible. You know, dear selection committee, please accept the attached materials for your consideration of my candidacy for the position of blah. Please let me know if any other materials are needed to complete my candidate file. That's pretty much it, and then I upload all my documents. One thing I didn't mention actually is references. Send your references. Do not put on your resume references available upon request. If you progress, they want your references. Put your references out there from jump. And let me also tell you something, friends, and this kind of comes down to who you know and networking. Your reference list might get you that call because they might say, oh my gosh, Olin Garrett, he's the president of Makuho. I know him. And that might get you a call. Oh my gosh, Debbie Scheidler, she's really loud and does webinars. I know her too. That might get you the in. So make sure that you're providing your references along with your cover letter and your resume. They go hand in hand. It's a three-way street. Send them all at the same time. But again, your email body, Nick, should be short, sweet, say what it says, be as inclusive in your language as possible, send it on your way, sincerely, be formal. All right, would I mind viewing your resume? Absolutely not. For anyone out there, please absolutely send me your resume and your cover letter. I will take a look at all of them. I actually really love doing resume and cover letter reviews because in my time here at Rutgers and my time previously at Stockton University and SHIP, I served on a lot of search committees, so I've seen a lot of resumes at a lot of different levels of the game, entry-level folks all the way on up to directors of departments and assistant chancellors. So I would love to take a look at your resume and offer my 2 cents to you. Would I advise 3 references as being the maximum number of references listed? Jennifer, that's a really great question. 3 is the accepted norm. Depending on the position I'm applying for, and if I know that I have a reference who is familiar with the institution or perhaps folks that work there, I have been known to send 3 or 5 references, or I'm sorry, 4 or 5 references for positions, but 3 is the standard. Make sure you have 3 folks who are going to represent you well as your references. Make sure they know you're applying. I've gotten calls before for reference checks and I had no idea at all that the person was searching or that they applied or that they put my name down. Give your people a heads up. That is always really, really helpful. But yes, 3 is the standard. You can't go wrong with 3. Don't go more than 5 because that is way, way, way much. Most advice is going to tell you 3.
Also, speaking to references, it's really important. I think Debbie touched on it earlier, but make sure that you put your references on a separate page. Don't include it as part of your resume page. And one of my preferences for that is also making sure that the formatting and the font and all of that also matches the same to your resume, just so that they can see that it goes together. So it should have the same exact header on top of your references list as it has on your resume. And I also agree with Debbie on you feel free to tailor your references to the position too. So, I have a references list for housing and residence life specific jobs that I would apply for, but then I also have specific references for women-centered positions that I also are interested in. So feel free. You can also have multiple references lists so that they'll speak differently about you for different positions.
That is absolutely true. I have a document saved on my my flash drive. It's literally references, and it's about 15 people long. It's already pre-formatted, so I can copy-paste it, but never send 15 references for a job. But those, Jess is exactly right. They will each speak to my strengths and my interests in some different ways. So if I want to do something that's more conduct-based or more Title IX-based or bystander intervention or operations or res life, I can pull these folks and put them in the right positions. Just like you want to show how dynamic and well-versed you are in what you can do, you want your references to speak to your strengths for the position you're applying for. So that's excellent, excellent advice, Jess.
Thank you.
All right. I'm going to say this. This is, whoops, now I'm going to say this before we wrap up. Some friendly candidate advice. My friends, I have sat through TPE. I have sat through MAPC. I love that feel, that vibe. It is absolutely an extrovert's dream and an introvert's draining experience, so you need to make sure that you're taking care of you. But man, I have seen some folks show up for these interviews, and let me be clear, a job searching placement conference is a job interview. And Jess is laughing because she knows some of the people I'm referencing. Please, please, please show up dressed professionally. No leggings. I love me some LuLaRoe leggings, folks. I'm not wearing them to a job interview. I want to see suits. I want to see pleats in your pants. I want to see nice shoes. I want to see conservative jewelry. I want to see you wearing your best. If you can't afford a suit, I get that. No one here needs to own a $500 suit. But I think I want to see a shirt or a tie or a blouse or some slacks. Please do not show up in leggings or jogger pants or sweats or jeans. I don't care how nice your jeans are. They are never appropriate for an interview. Also, watch your language and behavior. You are not just interviewing when you're sitting on the candidate floor. The second you walk through the lobby of that hotel, the second that you are in that restaurant or that bar or on that elevator, you don't know who sees you and is watching you. Should they only be counting the interview? Probably. But do we absolutely make inferences on people based on how they conduct themselves? Without question. So please make sure when you are at an interview, when you are on campus, if you are driving and parking in a parking lot and trying to find your way to the Dean of Students office, you are on and live the second you step foot on that campus or at that hotel or at that placement conference. And in closing, finally, folks, I showed you that pyramid that looked absolutely daunting in terms of, holy cow, there's a lot of us and less jobs out there. That is true. So I get that. But I want to let you know something that I personally value when I'm seeing candidates sit together in a big kind of holding area for a conference, especially at MAPC. I have seen such amazing solidarity, especially at MAPC. Even though you're in competition, folks, help each other out. Help each other out. For me, that speaks to the character of the potential candidate I'm looking at. If I see someone lend a helping hand in a job placement conference, that lets me know that they are going to go that extra mile when I bring them to my office. So please, be kind to each other, help each other out. While we are in competition, we are still all on the same team. Don't get discouraged, folks, if your job search does not go the way you envisioned in your mind. Some of you, it's going to take longer than you thought. Some of you, it's going to go a whole lot quicker than you thought. Don't be surprised if you have to send out more applications and more resumes down the road. I promise you that we are here to support you in any way, shape, or form that we possibly can. And I say we, I mean Jess, I mean Gina, I mean me, I mean our McCool leadership. My contact information is right there, folks. You can tweet me, and my email address is right there, sdeborah@camden.rutgers.edu. Send me your resume, send me your cover letters. Get in touch with me. Let me know how I can support you as best as I possibly can. Utilize me if you want me to help network you. I know folks in region. I know a lot of folks out of region too. You know, if I can support you or put a good word in for you or get to know who you are, if you want to run through some mock interview questions, I'm happy to do so. I thank you all so much for your time today. Again, I thank Gina and I thank Jess for giving me the opportunity to speak with you. I'm so glad that technology worked for us, so that's also a big win. But I just wish you all the greatest of success. Take care of one another. I look forward to hear your great professional successes. I hope to see some of you involved in McCool in the future, and I wish you all a fantastic day. So thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Debbie. If anyone also in addition has any questions about MAPC in particular, I'm going to put my email address in the questions box. Feel free to email me any questions that you may have. I'm also willing to look over resumes and such, but please do not be don't be strangers. Thank you all, and I hope you all have a great day.